Thank you. I'm going to just be very brief so we can get to your questions as soon as possible. First, I want to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territories of the Mississauga, Anishinaabe, sorry, that's Toronto, the Anishinaabe and the Algonquin peoples. I say that with a great deal of gratitude and as an ally in the struggle for Indigenous self-determination and the respect for all of the calls to action. Je veux dire que je suis une alliée et je suis prête à soutenir les efforts des peuples autochtones pour l'autodétermination et le respect à tous les appels à l'action. I want to start because I hope that they'll see it and just thank all of our members across the country that have put their support behind me, that have placed their faith in me. I want to tell them that I take that responsibility very seriously. And I want to thank them for doing what Greens do really well, which is being extremely courageous in terms of picking the leadership that they believe that Canada needs. It is highly symbolic and highly important that I sit here today, the first in many firsts, and I thank them for making the choice that they have, and I'm going to do everything I can to deserve it every single day. I also want to thank Elizabeth and Paul. Elizabeth also as a first as well. I said during my acceptance speech that I stand on her shoulders, and there's no question that I do. Elizabeth took a party with 6,000 people. We have over 34,000 members now. We have 3 members of caucus, and that is a tremendous legacy for anyone. And I cannot wait to work with you. This is one of the big bonuses of having this role. We get to work together. And the same with you as well, Paul. I'm just so excited about that and all the things we're going to do together. And so just very briefly, I said you'll hear these themes over and over again in the coming weeks and months. We are at a moment in time, and my sister said it best. I will give her the credit for it. My sister said it best when she said that we have arrived at a moment where we have got to do better. We have got to do better, and we have got to ask ourselves, what is a life worth? Every single day during this pandemic, we've been confronted with that question. What is a life worth? What are we willing to do to protect our friends, our neighbors, and our community? What are the social policies that we need in order to do that? And how are we going to make sure that when this scourge is over, that we are more resilient and that the next time it hits, and we will be here again, that we can be more resilient and that we can protect every single person in Canada. We have 2 great challenges that we face. And as leader of the Green Party of Canada, my job is to make sure that Canadians understand that and then understand that their best option in terms of attacking those challenges is to elect more Green Party of Canada members. First, we have the urgent needs that have come to the fore during the pandemic. We have a social safety net that has let people down and has let people fall through. I mentioned that my father died in long-term care. He's one of thousands of Canadians who died unnecessarily because the government and the previous governments dropped the ball. And if we don't fix that problem, then more people will die in this next wave that that's hit us, really. And so long-term care, universal pharmacare, guaranteed livable income, these are the policies that we need to have in place as soon as possible if we are going to protect everyone and allow them to live in dignity. And then we can never forget the climate emergency. And I joke about this because people say we're a one-issue party. And I say to them, if it's the right issue, then it's okay for it to be the one issue. And in the case of the climate emergency, it is and remains the existential crisis of our times. And we cannot forget about it because it has not forgotten about us. And so when I listened to the speech from the throne, I think like many of you, I was hoping to hear something extremely inspirational. I was hoping to hear a vision for Canada that would inspire and spark the action that we need towards those 2 objectives. And what I heard was a whole lot of platitudes. And unfortunately, a platitude is not a plan. And so I am encouraging people to turn towards the Green Party if they're looking for a real plan, because what we see is that the other parties, unfortunately, are intellectually exhausted. Alors que la situation exige un leadership politique audacieux et courageux, je suis forcée de constater que les autres partis politiques sont à court d'idées. J'ai écouté le discours du trône en espérant d'être inspirée. Malheureusement, je n'ai entendu que les mots creux d'un gouvernement qui est intellectuellement épuisé. And so with that, I look forward to your questions. I look forward to working with you in the media on a good news story for Canadians. And that good news story is the Green Party. That good news story is an accelerated transition towards a green economy as soon as we're able to do it. And the good news story is that we still have the time to create the social safety net that is going to allow every Canadian to live in dignity. Et avec ça, je le passe à vous pour vos questions. Merci.
We're going to take three questions on the telephone. D'abord, on prend 3 questions du téléphone.
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser votre question. The first question is from Lina Dib, La Presse canadienne. La première question est de Lina Dib, La Presse canadienne. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour, Madame Paul. Vous dites que le gouvernement semble à court d'idées. Vous n'êtes pas élu, vous n'avez pas de place au Parlement en ce moment. Vous comptez faire quoi exactement pour faire valoir vos idées, pour vous faire remarquer sur la scène politique?
Bon, tout d'abord, merci pour la question. Tout d'abord, je cherche un siège au Parlement. Je me présente comme notre candidate dans la circonscription de Toronto Centre. Je suis l'ancienne candidate de 2019 dans cette circonscription. Et je le fais encore, j'ai décidé de le faire même avant d'être élu comme chef, parce que les gens au Toronto Centre ont besoin d'une vraie représentation. Moi, je dis ça suffit. Ça suffit avec les candidats et candidates libérales qui sont parachutés dans cette circonscription et puis quittent directement pour ailleurs. Les besoins sont urgents pour les gens à Toronto Centre et je crois qu'ils ont besoin d'une forte option verte. Alors, j'espère qu'ils seront d'accord. Et si oui, je serai dans le Parlement, peut-être même en novembre.
Et sinon, c'est quoi votre option?
Et sinon, je peux dire que moi et les autres candidats et candidates dans notre cours sont des experts dans faire la campagne virtuelle. Alors, j'ai appris beaucoup sur comment on fait une course, même dans une pandémie, même dans un espace virtuel. Et la bonne nouvelle, c'est que nous avons beaucoup de leaders. Notre parti est un parti de la base, un parti avec beaucoup de voix. Mon travail va être, oui, d'avoir une voix forte pour nos membres, mais aussi de partager ma voix et notre plateforme avec tous nos chefs, tous nos leaders. Yes. So what I said is that if I don't, the good news is, and David, you would know this better than most, that we have learned how to campaign in a virtual space. I can tell you that I'm an expert in that, having done that for 9 months. We were committed to outreach. We were committed to reaching all of our members, and we did that, even with travel being impossible during the pandemic. So I'm confident that we can continue to connect with Canadians. I'm confident that the media is going to help me to connect with Canadians, whether I'm inside or outside of Parliament. And then we're a grassroots party, which means that, my objective is to make sure that the platform I stand on is wide enough and strong enough to have Elizabeth and Paul and all of our leaders across the country sharing their voices. This is the moment for all of you to get to know the breadth and the depth that we have within our party. We have the bench strength to govern tomorrow if we're given the opportunity, and that's going to be part of my job to make sure that Canadians know that.
Next question, one follow-up. Suivant question, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, merci. The next question is from Marika Walsh, The Globe and Mail. La prochaine question est de Marika Walsh, The Globe and Mail. Please go ahead, la parole est à vous.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Paul. I'm wondering what your take is on, it appears that none of the other parties will stand down their candidates in Toronto Centre, as the Greens did in Burnaby South when Jagmeet Singh was running in a by-election.
Well, I can't say that that surprises me. I was asked that question yesterday, and I would say that, I said then that the choice was theirs. It certainly doesn't surprise me. I would say that I'm accustomed. I'm a first, and as a first, you're accustomed to fighting. You're accustomed to having to overcome every single barrier to get to where you're trying to go to. And so, if we have to do that yet again in Toronto Centre, then we're prepared to do that. And so they won't stand down, but I'm going to stand up for the residents in Toronto Centre.
And so can you give us a bit more understanding of how it will work within your party if you're not in Parliament? Will Ms. May continue to be the parliamentary leader? And are you?
I hope so.
Are you open to going to other provinces or other regions to run, or do you only want to run in Toronto?
First, I certainly hope so. Those of you who have covered the Hill long enough know that there is no one, sorry, Paul, no one that has Elizabeth's institutional knowledge, both of Parliament, its procedures, its policies, and just public policy in general. I feel like I should put her on the spot and ask her if she has a photographic memory, because it is extraordinary. So absolutely, the really encouraging thing is we're going to have incredibly strong leadership in the caucus until I'm able to join my colleagues. And I would remind people of other examples of leaders who have done extraordinary work and then made extraordinary breakthroughs outside of Parliament. And I will just say mention one name, Jack Layton. And so there's a lot of work that I have to do, whether it's inside or outside of Parliament, to make our case to Canadians, and I can do it in any fora.
And are you willing to run outside of Toronto?
Oh yes, thank you for that. I'm willing to run anywhere that the Green Party and our membership thinks it makes sense for me to run. My children are grown. My son's over there at the door. My husband is an international human rights lawyer and has, all of his work is outside of Canada, and so I have bags. We'll travel.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question. Une question, un follow-up.
Thank you, merci. The next question is from Raymond Filion, TVA. La prochaine question, Raymond Filion, TVA. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Bonjour, Madame Paul. Merci. Bonjour.
Bonjour,
Quand les gens pensent au Parti vert, ils pensent à l'environnement. Or, la pandémie est actuellement la grande priorité pour les Canadiens, bien avant l'environnement. Est-ce que ça ne risque pas de rendre la partie plus difficile pour votre formation?
J'étais, comme j'ai dit, j'étais une candidate dans l'élection de 2019, dans une circonscription qui est dans les mains de l'épidémie d'opioïdes, qui est une des circonscriptions le moins abordables dans tout le Canada, et où un enfant dans trois vit dans la pauvreté. Alors, je sais très bien que d'être un vrai parti, un parti pour les peuples, il faut être un parti qui parle et qui s'occupe des enjeux sociaux. Nos politiques sur le revenu minimum garanti, l'accès à les médicaments universels, l'accès à l'éducation postsecondaire, l'accès à la décriminalisation des drogues, tout ça sont des politiques anciennes de notre parti. Et tout ça est ce qu'il faut pour ce moment. Alors, je sais très bien que, c'est mon travail, mais si les gens au Canada prennent un moment à penser de notre parti et de penser de nos politiques, ils vont voir que c'était nous qui avons proposé les politiques dont nous avons besoin en ce moment.
Quel est votre message aux électeurs du Québec, qui est quand même une province où votre parti n'a pas encore réussi à remporter de siège? Qu'est-ce que vous leur dites pour essayer d'attirer leur attention? Je
leur dis bonjour. Bonjour. Bonjour, comme quelqu'un qui est la mère de 2 membres de la francophonie. Mes 2 enfants étaient éduqués en français. Ils ont commencé leur éducation en français dans nos écoles publiques francophones et ils font membre de la francophonie. Alors, c'est très personnel pour moi. Je suis hâte à travailler avec notre parti pour devenir un parti complètement bilingue. Je sais qu'il y a des barrières pour les gens qui aimeraient être bilingues. Dans mon cas, je suis juste une ancienne étudiante de l'immersion française. Et ma mère et ma famille ont fait des énormes efforts pour que nous soyons bilingues. Et je remercie ma mère pour ça. Les gens au Québec sont énormément progressistes. C'est là où nous avons eu 500 000 personnes dans les rues pour réclamer un vrai plan pour attaquer la crise climatique. Alors, moi, je dis bienvenue à tous les progressistes au Québec qui cherchent une maison. En ce moment, ils n'ont pas de maison. Ils n'ont pas de maison dans une partie fédérale. Et c'est chez nous. Alors, moi, dès le premier moment, je vais aller chercher ces votes. Je vais aller chercher des nouveaux membres au Québec. Et je dis qu'il y a toujours une place chez nous pour eux.
Thank you. Questions on the floor now, please. One question, one follow-up. Question ici dans la chambre, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour.
Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. C'est toujours le cas après une course à la direction du parti. Il faut essayer de réunir les différentes factions. La gauche du Parti vert était très forte. Il y a aussi des éléments au sein du parti qui sont en faveur de boycott et de sanctions envers Israël. Comment est-ce que vous allez réunir ces gens-là? Et est-ce que ces gens-là qui demandent boycott et divertissement et sanctions ont une place au Parti vert?
D'abord, je félicite tous les candidats et candidates. C'est remarquable que nous avons réuni 8 personnes autant qualifiées pour le rôle, pour passer 9 mois à lutter pour gagner ce place. Alors, je les félicite et je leur dis que c'était très bon pour notre démocratie interne, mais aussi externe, de voir que c'est possible d'avoir un échange d'idées. Malheureusement, parce que les autres partis ont concentré tellement de pouvoir dans leur chef, dans leur petit entourage, qu'on oublie que dans une démocratie, il faut avoir des échanges d'idées. C'est comme ça qu'on crée des bonnes politiques. Alors, je crois qu'il y a des places pour tous ces points de vue. Nous avons des valeurs partagées. Et si un membre partage ces valeurs, je leur dis bienvenue. Nos politiques sont créées par nos membres. Nous sommes en train de commencer le processus pour notre prochaine convention de politique qu'on va célébrer en janvier ou plus ou moins. Bon, c'est pas clair. Bon, mais l'année prochaine. Et c'est là où nous allons décider quelles seront nos politiques pour les prochaines 2 années, quelles seront nos politiques pour la prochaine élection. Et après ça, ce serait mon rôle de représenter ces politiques. Yes. Swivel. So what I said is that this is what a healthy... First, I wanted to thank the candidates that presented themselves to run. This was 9 months. I'm sorry, my voice isn't really totally up to the job today. This was 9 months of working very, very hard, of hundreds of people, thousands really, working across the country to support their candidates and to help them to win. And so I thank them for their contribution, and I thank them so much for the very, very healthy exchange of ideas that we had. It is really remarkable that we were able to get 8 candidates of such high quality to commit to running in this race. And I say to them, that their contribution has changed the party for the better. And then I also remind people that this is what healthy democracy looks like. We forget that because more and more over the years, and this started within the Harper years, and it's only gotten worse, what we see is a hyper-concentration of power in the leader's office, in their entourage, and we forget that a democracy is better when there is an exchange of ideas. Their tension is good, the arguments are good, and it creates better public policy. And so for me, as long as Green Party members support our core values, there is no debate about those, then they're very welcome. And I hope that we will continue to have those healthy discussions. We have a policy convention next year. I'm here to represent the policies of the party and our members. And so the members will decide what will be in our next platform and what policies I'll be representing for the years to come.
Vous avez proposé durant la campagne d'imposer des tarifs aux pays qui ne respectent pas certaines normes au niveau du carbone.
Oui.
La question, un, pourquoi? Mais deuxièmement, est-ce que vous n'avez pas peur que ça se retourne contre le Canada et que ce genre de tarifs-là soit imposé à nous à l'avenir? Et quel effet ça aurait sur l'économie?
Je vais répondre à la deuxième partie par dire que j'espère que non. Parce que si le Canada adopte les cibles nécessaires pour attaquer notre crise climatique, si nous avons des cibles, si nous avons un plan, absolument pas. Alors, j'espère que non. Et si notre gouvernement actuel ne se démontre pas capable de le faire, je leur dire de céder place à des autres partis qui sont prêts à le faire. Parce que nous avons qu'un petit moment pour attaquer cette crise existentielle. Et notre gouvernement insiste. Ils insistent sur garder des cibles qui ne sont pas suffisantes pour atteindre les réductions d'émissions de gaz à effet de serre nécessaires. Pour les tarifs, moi, je suis très encouragée de voir que Joe Biden, je crois qu'il a 10 points, il a 10 points en avance de Trump. Parce que Joe Biden aussi parle d'imposer des tarifs sur des pays qui n'ont pas, comme nous en ce moment, n'ont pas implémenté des cibles, les cibles nécessaires pour lutter contre la crise climatique. Et c'est très logique. Ça ne vaut pas la peine d'avoir une excellente politique nationale sur la crise climatique si les produits qui sont importés des autres pays avec des faibles cibles peuvent entrer. Ce n'est pas bon pour notre économie, ce n'est pas bon pour notre business, nos entreprises. Alors, oui, c'est une idée extraordinaire. Ça nous donne une opportunité. Désolée, c'est 3 jours d'entrevue. Ça nous donne une opportunité d'encourager les autres pays à adopter ces cibles. Et c'est quelque chose que je crois dans les prochains 2-3 mois, l'Union européenne va adopter. Et si le deuxième plus grand bloc économique dans le monde adopte ces tarifs, ça va changer tout. Et j'espère que le Canada va prendre le leadership de le faire avant que ça soit imposé par les États-Unis et l'Union européenne. Merci beaucoup. Does anyone want to hear about carbon borders? That's very exciting. You can ask me a question about it.
Next question.
Sure. Sorry.
Sorry.
Lee Berthium from the Canadian Press. I wanted to ask you, first of all, about the executive director of the party. You were asked on the weekend whether you felt he should have been fired or not, said you had 1 vote. Some people aren't satisfied with that answer, so I just wanted to ask you again, do you feel that the executive director should have been fired or not?
Well, I'm new on the job. And as you can imagine, during a leadership contest, there was a firewall between contestants and the council and the inner workings of the party, and that's as it should be. And so I simply cannot comment on something that I was not involved in. As I understand, our executive director offered his resignation yesterday. I also was not part of any of those discussions. I have no role in those human resource matters, particularly, as I said, because until less than 2 days ago, I was a candidate. And so I have confidence in the decision of our council. I thank the executive director for the work that he did do. And I'm looking forward to meeting the new executive director whenever we get around to hiring that person. But as I said, part of my job is to make sure that people in Canada know that there is more than one way to do politics. The idea that I, as leader of our party, could come in or would come in and just sweep away whatever I didn't want and just impose my new team on the whole party, that was never going to happen. That's not how we work, and I'm very happy that's not how we work. And so we have confidence in each other and we work as a team. I wasn't part of this, but I'll be part of the decisions going forward.
And I wanted to ask you what you feel you bring to Parliament Hill that is going to be different.
mean, just to put the obvious aside for a second. No, you know, it's all joking aside, diverse representation matters. It matters. The first thing that I did after my graduate studies was to come back to Canada and with a fellowship, an American fellowship, ironically, but to create an institute focused on the issue of political underrepresentation. Because we have done an extraordinary job. I mean, we have been world leaders in attracting the very best talent from around the world. And then I'm a first-generation Canadian, so I was born here. And so we have our homegrown diverse talent as well. And we are just wasting it. We're wasting it. And that's not just an equity issue. It is a waste of intellectual capital. And no one can afford that given the major urgent crises that we're facing. And so we're going to create better public policy when people like me and more diversity is in the room. You're far less likely to create a policing policy that targets, for instance, Black Canadians if you have Black Canadians that are at the table designing that policy. So what I bring is hope to all the people that have not seen themselves represented in politics to this point. Hope that it's possible that we can have a more inclusive style of politics, and I'm very excited about that. Oui, alors, je disais que la représentation diverse, c'est très important. Et ce n'est pas que une question d'équité, mais oui, c'est ça aussi. Mais c'est une question d'utiliser toutes nos ressources humaines. Nous avons fait un incroyable travail. Nous sommes en fait des leaders sur le plan international à attirer le talent de tout le monde. Et moi, comme Canadienne de première génération, nous avons même élevé 2-3 générations de Canadiens et Canadiennes diverses. Alors, de ne pas utiliser tout ce talent, c'est vraiment une grande perte. C'est une grande perte stratégique, c'est une grande perte de talent intellectuel. Et dans un moment dont nous avons besoin de nos meilleures idées pour lutter contre nos grands défis, c'est une perte que nous ne pouvons pas, on ne devrait pas supporter. Alors, moi, je représente un symbole de ce qui est possible. Je sais qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de gens au Canada qui croient que c'est beaucoup plus possible de s'impliquer dans les politiques parce que je suis là. Et ça, c'est une bonne nouvelle pour tout le monde. Exactly. Well, this is, again, we have no trade-offs to make, and we are very lucky that way. There are no trade-offs. We are not talking about, compromising any of the skills that we need to talk about policy. I have been prepared professionally and educationally to take, and with my life experience to take on this role. But that's the important thing to remember. There is the lived experience, and that is the thing that you get with diversity. And this applies not just to politics. We know it applies in the private sector. Boards that are more diverse, they produce better dividends for their shareholders. Diversity is just something that's a win-win-win for everyone.
Next question. Prochaine question, s'il vous plaît.
Hi, David Thurton, CBC News.
Hi, David.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Let's go back to your executive director. Can you tell us whether it was his decision to resign, your former executive director, or was this a decision of the party's federal council? I understand that maybe you weren't at that meeting, so maybe one of your MPs can answer that question.
They're welcome to if they would like to. I cannot give you those details because I was not part of any of those discussions.
I was not at that meeting.
All right.
Is your mic on?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think it is. Yeah, I won't take too long because I think the focus should be on our new leader. We had a hiring decision late spring, and the executive director was with us on a probationary basis. So there was a lot of discussion, as has been revealed in reporting by your colleague, Ashley Burke. The decision was entirely Pratik Awasi's, that in the interests of the good of the party, he was stepping aside. For that, I thank him.
Follow-up?
And so there was no decision at federal council. If you could just clarify that really quickly. And I have a second question.
Well, David, I'm in a bit of a spot here because the decisions of federal council on confidential HR matters are just that, confidential. But we were grateful for his resignation.
Sorry. Just quickly, if you could just tell us, clearly you're disappointed that the NDP is running a candidate when they didn't run a candidate when the Greens didn't run a candidate when Jagmeet Singh was seeking a seat out in Burnaby. So, I mean, can you tell us, like, what's going to be your strategy to get notice, to punch above the Liberals? This is a Liberal stronghold. It's going to be a tough race.
It's going to be a tough race. You're absolutely right. And we just came through a tough race, and so I'm accustomed to them. We had, I like the punch above the weight because that's what it was. We had 8 rounds before the final decision was made from our members, and we worked for every single one of those votes. And it's just the same strategy. There's no magic to it. We are going to make our case in all the ways that we can during a pandemic without being able to do the sort of door-to-door knocking that we would have liked to have done. We're going to rally and call together every single Green Party member across the country to support us because, we support our neighbors. It's not just about supporting the people just in our community. We consider ourselves to be a larger community. And when we see people struggling, whether they're half the country away or not, we're going to rally to them. And as I said, Toronto Centre residents are suffering. We have many frontline workers in that riding who worked on our campaign. Homelessness has shot up. There are senior citizens in that riding that would have starved had there not been emergency community groups taking food to those people. And it is the center of the opioid crisis. And so I'm hoping that some of the attention I have as the leader will spill over into that race. I also will say that I'm calling on every Canadian, as I did during my speech on Saturday, any Canadian who cares to send a message to the Liberals saying that enough is enough and that this riding needs real representation. Anyone who is frustrated that the Liberals called a by-election when they knew that we were in a pandemic spike in a riding that is one of the most compressed ridings in the entire, it's the smallest riding in the entire country, and where they know that it is going to be difficult for people to exercise their right to vote in a safe way. Anyone who believes that this was a bad decision and wants to send a message to the Liberal government about that decision, come and help us, and you're very welcome.
Annamie, with your permission, can I say something about Jagmeet Singh?
Please.
I would like to remind Mr. Singh, I was going to contact him this morning, but apparently I take it that he's already said the NDP will not stand down at Toronto Centre. I hadn't had the opportunity to ask him yet because, as we know, Annamie Paul became leader on Saturday, and now we're in a situation of leader's courtesy. When I communicated with Jagmeet Singh and realizing that he might have lost, absolutely, he did not have a shoe-in Burnaby South. He definitely had no roots there. And I had been arrested there blockading the Kinder Morgan pipeline with the NDP member of parliament at the time, Kennedy Stewart, who's now mayor of Vancouver. So Greens were strong in Burnaby South. And when I approached him and I said, would you find it welcome if we offer leaders courtesy so that we stand down in Burnaby South so you can take your place in parliament, where as leader of a party you belong? They thought it over. He got back to me and he said, it's a very classy thing you're doing. So I'd like Jagmeet Singh to think about it. I'd like New Democrats to reach out to him and say, how classy is it to try to block the entry to the House of Commons of the first Black woman leader of a federal political party? Consider what Rosemary Brown would think. Thanks.
Next question, on va au téléphone. Un question, un follow-up, one
That's
question.
That's why I'm not worried
on the telephone.
about the caucus.
Thank you. Merci. The next question is from Palak Mangat, The Hill Times. La prochaine question, Palak Mangat, The Hill Times. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking our questions. Ms. Paul, you said earlier in your remarks that party unity is one of your priorities. But at the same time, there appears to be internal divisions that you as leader will likely oversee, along with past remarks from fellow leadership candidates who have said that the race has brought up sentiments of the party establishment. I'm hoping you can speak to maybe how you hope to tackle the latter, and is it sort of as easy as ushering in a new leader like yourself?
Well, thanks so much for the question. And first, I again want to thank the candidates. Everyone has reached out online and personally to congratulate me and to congratulate the Green Party members on their decision. And so, this is, again, we unfortunately have moved so far away from being able to recognize what healthy democracy looks like. This is what it looks like. We all wanted to succeed. We all had our vision. We all worked and fought really hard to do that. But when it's done, we come together. And that is absolutely what has happened. And I'm really grateful that it's happened so quickly. There is a place for many different points of view within our party. We're anchored by our core values. And that is the thing. Those are the guiding lights. And as long as we're doing that, we are from different communities. We represent different people, and our job is, and our first loyalty is to them. And so we always have to leave room for our members of parliament and our members in general to be able to do that, even if it gets messy sometimes. And if you show me a party where there is complete unity all the time, then I will show you a party that is just in the grips of the power of the leader of that party, and that is not good for anyone.
Follow up? No follow up? Okay, question goes to the floor. Next question, please. One question, one follow up. Thank you.
Morning. Tonda McCharles with the Toronto Star. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a little bit more about how you see this working, though, because if you don't have a seat and Ms. May is the spokesperson in Parliament, how do you actually see that actually working? She cast doubt on the sort of role of a leader as boss last week. So I'd just like you to explain to us how you see that working.
Well, no, Elizabeth is completely correct. And, this is a message, let's say an education that I'm very willing to do, and we're going to continue to do it throughout the weeks and months to come, because coming back again to the other question, we have lost the ability to a certain extent to recognize what leadership can look like when it is in the context of true cooperation and collaboration, and when it is guided by members and the grassroots. This is what it looks like. It looks like leadership that isn't afraid of letting other voices shine. It looks like leadership that can stand back so other people can stand forward. And so I see nothing but positives until I get to the House, having a person who is one of the most respected and collegial parliamentarians in Ottawa and on the Hill representing us. And so I'm going to be here a lot. I'm going to be here I'll be here as we react to the vote on the speech from the throne. I'm going to be here when it counts. But in the meantime, I have absolute confidence in Elizabeth to speak for our caucus, and Jenica Atwin and Paul Manley as well. And I will be doing what it needs to be done outside. We have so much work to do to build our membership, so much work to do to let Canadians know that we are the right party for this moment. You match a party with the moment, and we are the right party for this moment. So this is what an unafraid leadership looks like. And I know that my voice will shine through, even if I allow and support other voices as well.
And just on your, what your party what you want your party to do in Parliament. I'm a little confused as to what you see is your party's, I guess, urgent and biggest priority right now. You went through pharmacare, long-term care, and a guaranteed livable income as the priorities of the moment today. And climate change obviously is a raison d'etre for your party. So can you tell us what you want to see your MPs focus on in Parliament? And I'm not sure if I understood how you want the throne speech vote to go for your party. I assume against.
We haven't spoken about that yet. I'm very excited. That's next on the agenda after this. So stay tuned for the answer to that. In terms of again how this is all going to work and what I'd like to see our MPs doing. First, these are not my MPs. These are not my MPs, again, coming back to the theme of we do politics differently and in a way that I believe Canadians will see is extremely suited to this moment. We never would have gotten through the first phase of the pandemic, and we're not going to get through the next phase of the pandemic and on the road to recovery when we eventually get there without collaboration and cooperation. That Canadians have seen it, and we all hunger for more of it. And the Green Party has always been the party of that, and we will work across party lines with any party that is interested in working on behalf of the urgent needs of Canadians, and within our party as well. Our objective, the objective of our MPs, is not to represent me and my point of view. It's to represent our members and to represent the people in their constituencies and the over 1 million people who voted for us. And so, again, I have no worries about them having strong, independent voices. I'm not going to be the silent hand guiding them behind the scenes. We're going to work in consensus, and it is possible to do that, and it does produce better public policy.
Tonda, can I clarify something very quickly? Just to say that when I spoke with your colleague at the Toronto Star, I was talking about the role of a leader, including me. I was never the boss of the Green Party of Canada when I was leader. Our Constitution makes it clear, and our members voted years ago that whipped votes are not allowed in the Green Party of Canada. So Paul and Jenica and I have been making every decision by consensus, and as parliamentary leader, my work is in Parliament. But Annamie Paul is my leader. I may not be her MP, but she's my leader. By God, I'm so proud.
Thank you. Any more questions on the telephone? Est-ce qu'il y a des questions sur le téléphone, s'il vous plaît?
Thank you. Merci. Yes, the next question, Hélène Bozotti, Le Devoir. La prochaine question, Hélène Bozotti, Le Devoir. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour, parce que j'ai posé la question à Mme Paul hier sur le sujet. Je la poserai davantage à Mme May aujourd'hui. Juste revenir sur la courtoisie du NPD à ne pas vouloir enlever son député dans Toronto Centre. Vous avez dit on lui a fait la même chose pour Burnaby South, mais dans Burnaby South, le Parti vert n'avait eu que 2,8 % du vote. C'était pas un grand compromis que vous faisiez pour eux, alors que le NPD a eu plus de 20 % du vote dans Toronto Centre. Est-ce que vraiment votre demande est équitable?
Je peux répondre à ça parce que, bon, en fait, c'est moi qui est la candidate. Et juste pour... Et bonjour. Ça fait plaisir de parler avec vous encore une fois. Mais juste pour dire que, bon, moi, je n'ai pas eu aucune expectation. Aucun. Je ne demande rien de l'NPD. Je n'ai pas demandé qu'il se démonte. Je suis tout à fait prêt, comme toujours, comme d'hab, comme une femme d'un groupe qui est vraiment sous-représenté sur le plan politique, de lutter. Je sais qu'il y a des barrières, il y aura peut-être toujours des barrières. Alors, je vais les surmonter avec l'aide des résidents de la circonscription. Si Jagmeet Singh a décidé qu'il veut présenter un candidat, c'est complètement à lui de le faire. On n'attend rien de l'NPD sur le plan de courtoisie. Ils n'ont pas démontré beaucoup de courtoisie au Colombie-Britannique lors des élections de 2019. Et alors, j'espère que nous pouvons tourner la page sur ce chapitre et de recommencer, relancer notre relation parce que nous sommes tous plus forts quand nos partis collaborent et coopèrent pour le bien des peuples au Canada.
Une question à suivre, Hélène?
Oui, j'aimerais revenir à la question de mon collègue, M. Noël, en début de conférence de presse sur la question des campagnes de boycott et de désinvestissement visant Israël. Vous, personnellement, votre position, c'est quoi, Mme Paul?
Je soutiens les politiques de nos membres. Ils sont très bien, éclairés sur notre site web. Ils sont disponibles à tout le monde qui veut les voir et je les soutiens.
Merci. Is there another question on the floor, please? No, no more questions?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Is there any more on the telephone? Sorry, est-ce qu'il y a encore un sur le téléphone?
Yes, oui. The next question, Terry Davidson, Lawyers Daily. La prochaine question, Terry Davidson, Lawyers Daily. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Okay.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Currently, you are not practicing as a lawyer, but you do have legal training. You went to law school, and I think you do have some experience in the legal realm. That's a very specific skill set, right? I mean, what do you think that your training as a lawyer and any past experience will bring to your new role? How will it help you?
Oh, thanks for the question, and you're right. It's nice to be back in Ottawa. This is where I did my legal studies, particularly because the University of Ottawa had a fantastic Indigenous lens that they used to train lawyers and to train lawyers for non-traditional legal careers. And so, that's the reason that I went to law school. I knew I wanted to be involved in public policy. And I knew that this would be a great set of tools in my toolbox in order to do that. And it has held me in great stead. I have, whether working at the International Criminal Court or in global affairs in Brussels or founding socially innovative organizations, having those critical thinking skills has been really important to me. I highly encourage it. Well, you know what? I'm going to use this again as a moment to come back to the policies we're talking about. I would love to encourage more young people who are considering law to consider it. It's a wonderful training, whether you want to practice law or not. But it costs almost $30,000 to go to law school, not including all of the living expenses. And so we have slammed a barrier in front of people from marginalized groups, people who don't have that kind of money to pay to go to law school. And so there's a whole generation of young Canadians and mature students who just simply will never be able to go to law school. And it's exactly why we need universal post-secondary education. And it's exactly why we need a guaranteed livable income. Because young people like my son, 40% of young people had no job this summer, none. And the government, in their speech for the throne, offered nothing to those young people. And so again, we have to look at these things as a whole, and we have to ask ourselves, what is a life worth? From the beginning and to the end, and everything in between, and how are we going to support people in Canada at every stage of life?
Follow-up question?
Yes, just one. I'm going to ask again if I missed this, I apologize, but I'm going to ask again what Tonda asked, and that was, you've gone through a lot of priorities for your party, right? Whether it be long-term care, and now you're saying universal post-secondary education, and then you were talking about obviously the environment and climate change. But again, if I missed this, I apologize. But you put a lot of things on the table there. What do you think is for your party is the big ticket item there?
These are part of a whole. You can't have climate justice without social justice. People who don't have their urgent day-to-day needs addressed are not people who can be the allies that they need to be in the fight against the climate emergency. And if we don't have a livable planet, then there's no point in talking about the other thing. And so one of the things that, the pandemic has just changed so much, and it has clarified things in a way that I suppose only something this tragic can do. And it has clarified the ways in which we are all interconnected. And in the ways in which social policy is interconnected. And so we can't attack any one of those things. And we've seen the government doing that, scrambling to fill a hole here, and then another one comes over there and they scramble to fill that one. And that is not the way you do proper public policy, and it's not the way you protect people. So we are talking about all of those things. We have the chance of a lifetime to create a full social safety net. We have the chance of a lifetime to accelerate our transition to a net zero economy. if we have the leadership and the political courage to do it. And this is what we will be saying to Canadians every day leading up to the next election. Let's have the courage together so that we can put ourselves on the path towards where we need to go.
Thank you. One question on the floor, I believe.
Hi. Not to worry.
Go back to that.
I'm here for that.
But then, so you haven't decided where you're all at on the throne speech, but I just want to come back to those priorities you've enunciated are both the priorities that the Liberal Party has enunciated, the government, and the NDP. Who do you see as your prime opposition? Where do you need to eat in here? Or are you just trying to get votes from wherever you can? Where do you want to aim your focus?
Well, as I said before, with respect and also in a spirit of cross-partisan cooperation, the Liberals and the NDP are intellectually exhausted, and by that I mean the well has just run dry. All of the policies that you mentioned, the Green Party has been talking about in some cases for decades. And so, I think it was David's article that had the quote from the Vice President of Public Relations at Hill and Knowlton, who said that we are the vanguard. We are the vanguard, and we're the place that the Liberals and NDP have gotten used to coming to for the big, innovative, evidence-informed public policy ideas that are going to make the difference. And so every single one of the things that you mentioned, we were there first. And we were there alone until very recently, until this pandemic made it completely clear why we should have had all of those policies to begin with. And so we are the home for anyone who has said, we are not going back, we can do better than this, and who is ready to answer my sister's question about what a life is worth by saying it's worth more than this. It's worth more than what we've been getting. And those people come from everywhere. And so, all of those people are welcome with us. And I believe that people in Canada, when they have a moment to breathe, and I know we are still in an urgent situation, will look and see that we are the right party for this moment. We are matched to the needs of this moment.
Merci, thank you. Est-ce qu'il y a encore une question au téléphone? One more question for the telephone, and that will be the last question.
Thank you, merci. The last question is from Palak Mangat, The Hill Times. La prochaine question est de Palak Mangat, The Hill Times. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Yes, hi, thank you again. I had a question about Ms. Roberts' comments last week. And again, it's in light of the situation that unfolded with Ms. Miriam Haddad in recent weeks. Ms. Roberts had said that she hopes to eventually, quote unquote, streamline the governance structure of the party. So that would be the decisions and the appeals process. I'm curious whether or not Ms. Paul can speak to maybe how she could see that changing for the better. Obviously, as somebody who experienced it from within, I know that Ms. Roberts has said that it's a little bit premature to go into details there, but I was hoping that Ms. Paul has some ideas to share there.
Sorry, so streamline which process?
I believe Ms. Roberts had spoken about streamlining the governance structure of the process, so the decisions and the appeals process under a leadership race.
Oh, the leadership race. Well, so first, I want to congratulate our party for running a very unusual leadership race under very, well, it's not even difficult, unprecedented circumstances. And we've learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my experience with the members of the Federal Council. We haven't had a leadership race in almost 14 years. And we were a much smaller party then. And so, of course, there's going to be growing pains. And I think my campaign manager is outside. So, it's important to be honest and say that there are many things that did not go smoothly. This was not because of any lack of goodwill, but this was something that had never been attempted before. And so are we going to learn lessons from that? Absolutely. And are we going to do better the next time? 100%. I am not, again, I am not going to be, not now or ever, the hand that is guiding all elements of the party. But whatever role I can play as a member of the Federal Council in making sure we do better on this and all the other things that, as a party that wants to be better all the time, are working on, I will be a part of that.
Thank you. Merci. C'est terminé. This is finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.